Ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply honored this morning to be the first speaker. I will not be delivering a keynote address because a keynote address usually sets a trend for the rest of the speakers, which is unfair because we have a variety of very distinguished people who in their own lives have attained extraordinary attainments, which I think would be very wonderful experience for all of you to listen to and enjoy their achievements. As far as I am concerned, this morning, when I decided to talk to you, I really had no topic in mind. This is largely due to the creation of the people who invited me and said that I could speak on anything. Now, speaking on anything is a highly dangerous prospect, but my mind went immediately to a year or two ago when I on YouTube listened to and saw a performance par excellence by Nandan Nilekani. He spoke on ideas, and he spoke so well on ideas that it troubled me a great deal, saying that would I be able to ever speak like this? And I was very comfortable with the fact that nobody would ever invite me to speak. But today, here I am, caught between a hard place and a rock, and have to speak to you. I'd even seen just before this a very fine presentation on a technical issue by one Vijay Kumar, who I think was from the University of Philadelphia, who was talking about helicopter-like equipment, and he had done an excellent job in telling me, a totally non-technical person, how and why we should be trying to evolve such gizmos. So having those standards having been kept in my mind, I am standing before you, humbled a great deal, and wondering how I should approach what I want to share with you. Ladies and gentlemen, taking a leaf out of the ideas that Mr. Nandan Nilekani had brought out in his TED talk, he spoke about ideas. Ideas in conflict, ideas in progress, ideas currently functioning. Now, it made a lot of sense to me, and he made me feel proud as an Indian that we were on the threshold and at the crossroads of a very fine future. And I chose to dwell upon this for a short while with you because one of the fundamental things that his speech came out with was something that related to you. He described India as a country of tremendous potential because of the youthfulness of its majority of its population. That is, and who are these people? A good part of them is represented by you. You are the future whom we look to. Having said that, and I hope having made you feel a little comfortable, now let me try and make you feel a little uncomfortable by putting some seeds of thought into your minds. And although this title is food for thought, and I have switched the words and I love the thought of food, I will try to keep my speech a little short, but leave you to keep thinking about what I have to say. Among the many things that Mr. Nandan Nilekani's speech told me was that India has the potential of now surging ahead. I would like to caution all of us that while this is a wonderful thought to go home with, a lot of homework needs to be done to surge ahead. One of the important things that I have seen in my lifetime, which is twice the age of all of you, I find that one of the things that is holding us back is the squalor and the disorder that prevails in our society. I would like to place before you the thought that we need to clean up India first of all. First, it begins with a social cleanliness. Our environment needs to be tidied up We need to ensure that our cities equivalent to that of Singapore, nothing less. We can't just go to make a claim after a floods like in Bombay and say we're going to make Bombay into another Singapore or another Shanghai. There's a lot of sacrifice to be made, there's a lot of hard work to be done, and there's a lot of discipline to be brought in. I will come to discipline in the second part of my talk with you. Now, cleanliness is something that I think is what we need physically to begin with. If we kept our cities tidy, clean, functional, we would find ourselves harboring much less tension than what we have today. Many of you here are poised to go and join some of the finest institutions of employment. There's Infosys, there's Wipro, there are a whole host of organizations. But by the time you reach your offices from, let's say, Gangenhalli or anywhere else, your half your working spirit is demolished. The traffic that takes you all the way there puts you into a bad mood. Now, all this comes about because we are indisciplined. We're bringing it about because when we build roads, we don't take care. We can't maintain a speed. We can't judge that we will get from one place to another place within a set period of time. This doesn't happen in other civilized parts of the world. It happens only in India. So, if we resolve that we will try to keep our cities clean, beginning from the stretch of the road that stretches from one end of our houses to the other end of our houses, I think it's a beginning well made. Now, the principle, ladies and gentlemen, for cleanliness is very simple. All that I would like you to have is the small little dictum that in order to be clean, you have to have a place for everything, and everything have a place. Namely, that even if there is garbage, which you can't dispense with, you've got to have a place to keep the garbage. If you go on making this practice, ladies and gentlemen, you will find that you will begin to have a clean home to begin with, a clean outside your home to begin with, and if your neighbors and everybody participates in it, we are bound to have a clean city. Having said that, why I am being very insistent upon this is that a certain discipline begins to set in you, and you will begin to find it working inwards also. What do you see when you come across a person whose ideas are clear, whose abilities are well honed, and whose final performance is something that you enjoy? It's because he has cleaned up his mind. She has managed to set time according to what she needs to do. This is what it will definitely lead to. Ladies and gentlemen, you and I come from a society which is, and a kind of philosophy which is extremely old. No other society has a Bhagavad Gita, no other society has an Upanishad, but no other society has the kind of scholar that we have. Is it such that only we need these kind of stellar sayings to keep us, to remind us that there is a higher level that we need to go to and that the others don't need it? What's happened to our education? What's happened to ourselves? Why haven't we imbibed it and made it our own life? Life's meaning to be orderly, to be correct. Look at the very peculiar situation that we find. Parents of children who are subjected to detention in Denmark. What's happened in that kind of a case? The authorities in Denmark found that the children were not looked after properly. They said, okay, they're going to be taken to child care. All of us said, no, fathers and mothers have the right to do it. Yes, the fathers and mothers do have a right, but they also have a duty, don't they? They shouldn't bring it about. If your parents had decided to maltreat you and then you'd be taken into custody, how would you like it? Then, when The Indian government also stands behind the parents and says, no, 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 we've got to bring it back. There are these rights. We've lost it. We are about to give the children over to the parents when the parents turn around and declare that we're going to have a divorce now. How wonderful. Was this really, is this the kind of people that we've become? Where the lives of these children who do not know what to question, who do not know how to do anything, and in all probability are going to have a jolly good life in Denmark. Would you like to export me to Denmark? I'll pack myself, send me quick, I'll go. Right. Then comes the situation where it's supposed to be given to an uncle. As the uncle is about to take charge and other complication issues, and now Government of India is waiting for the developments to take place before it sends out. Look at the confusion that's happening. This is because we are not being firm with ourselves to be ordered. So, ladies and gentlemen, the advantages of being clean, of being tidy, of being ordered will definitely reflect in many of the things. On this part of my speech, let me just draw an allusion to what Anna Hazare did in Raleigh City. Here was a man who retired from the Indian Army and wondered why he was spared and given long life despite having been caught in 2 Indo-Pak wars. He returns to Raleigh City and finds that his land has been usurped by somebody else. He's got no home, so he installs himself in the local temple which is running to seed. There, his property consists of one tin box in which his shaving kit and a couple of dhotis and kurtas and underclothes and topis are there. And he says, anyway, nobody's really going to steal this from me, and he installs himself. So the first thing he does over there is he catches hold of the young children, begins to give them a purpose to look at, then begins to clean up the place. As the cleaning up takes place, he begins to realize that the women in the society are being harassed by husbands who don't have enough work to do and who begin to amuse themselves by getting drunk. So he rallies the children around, gets hold of drunken parents fathers who are coming home, lashes them to the trees and gives them a good whacking, which they really deserve. Having done that, most of the men and the mothers especially, being extremely supportive of this action, found that drinking began to subside. Slowly, the school improved. The school, having been a primary school, became a secondary school, and from a secondary school to a PU college, until it became such that in 1978-80, Raleigh City did not have children who were wonderstruck by motor vehicles coming into their villages. They began to conserve water, and they began to lead a quality of life which many of you in Bangalore will not be able to sustain. This is the kind of thing that the man did. And the man did use certain methods which are not legally permissible, but he began with cleanliness. And from that kind of cleanliness came an open society. People could not become mentally dirty, they could not become dirty in their minds or in their hearts. Corruption began to come down. And therefore today we have a human being in our country whom we all look up to. And what is he finally? He's a man who possesses no possessions, like the father of our nation when he passed away. A man who is supported by all of us. So therefore, I urge you to look and consider the necessity for cleanliness which doesn't just stop at social cleanliness but goes much deeper to make you better minds. Coming to the second part as to how this is to be done, I'm just going to lay a proposition before you that this is done by way of discipline. And here I would like to again place before you for thinking purposes that this can always be achieved if after school all children who aspire to go in for any government supported activity, be it higher education, be it employment, and most importantly, be it standing for any election, right from village panchayat up to the President of India. Let all of them do at least 5 years of national service. It's nothing to be worried about. 5 years of national service between the ages of 17 and 22 is one of the finest things that can happen, and most societies are insisting on this. This has helped most of the people in the countries which we admire to such an extent. To produce a set of children and young people who are disciplined, who look at life in a manner in which mature and creative people look at it. Let me give you an example. Were all of us to have done this 5 years of national service, it would be of extraordinary help in making us all equals. We would not be bothered about what family background our neighboring bed fellow is going to come from. We are not bothered about his religion. What we are bothered about is the sergeant major who's driving us beyond our limits to do various things. Suddenly, the peculiar notions which we've grown up with of reservations, of categorizations, of caste, of creed, all these will fade away. When you and I have to dig a trench with each other, we are both going to team up to see, let's get on with the job and be done with it. We can't keep arguing with each other whether your daddy is richer than my daddy, whether it's my Khandani Pesha to do this kind of digging or whatever it is. Because if we didn't do the digging, you and I get a further physical punishment. There's another aspect to this, ladies and gentlemen, the aspect of your own physical growth. Up till the age of 17, much of the concentration that you would have undergone would be for your mental preparation. It is at this stage when your body is also beginning to change. There are hormonal changes. If you're a girl, it's probably started a little earlier, but if you're a male, you are coming into certain ages when you're not coming to terms with the changes that are taking place within your body. That is why this is a time for good physical activity and for you to attain something. It is possible that where this kind of national service be handled in not like what the NCC is being handled today, but definitely battalions of children being sent away to border areas, being sent away to make the roads which are needed, being sent away to clean up the villages that need sanitation, being sent away to various places under the guidance of the huge army that we now have. It will put our country into a much higher plane of movement. Let me try and show you what happens to children in Singapore. As soon as they finish their 12th class, males have to report either at the army base or the naval base or the air force base, whichever they have to do. 2 years is compulsory. A strange thing happens. There are a large number of Indians and people of Indian origin over there. I know for a fact that one such Indian family, what they did was they found that, okay, let's try and beat the system. Very, very characteristic of our kind of upbringing. So what they did was they brought the boy over to Bangalore and made him fill up the forms for a PU class or for a degree certificate, and instead of presenting him, they presented a driver who was about his age. The boy goes back, does his national service, and by the time he finishes his national service, he's back home here for the 3rd year to take his exam and declare himself a graduate. This is one extent. I've seen another case where the boy, when he went to report for the kind of thing, he was found that he had defective vision. The parents have moved heaven and earth and taken them to the Netralayas that are famous around here, got the boy's eyes repaired and put him in for national service. That's the kind of pressure that people understood, that putting them to national service was of tremendous use. I also place it for your consideration. What is the qualification to get elected as anything in our country? Education-wise, nothing. If you have a good history sheet in the police station, everything. Is that what we want? Well, what do some of our young people who've achieved something? Yes, we've now got an engineer chief minister from one of our colleges, but is that the pattern everywhere? Certainly it isn't. What are the kind of people whom he has chosen as his ministers? What are their qualifications? Could they do even 1 year or 6 months in the armed forces? They wouldn't be able to do it, and they will sit with General V.K. Singh having to come before them and smartly salute. Is this fair? Is this right? And is this the way we should go? Ladies and gentlemen, I am not saying that you should all become militant and you should be given army training. There's a lot more to it. Just imagine, suppose those people who were caught on 26/11 had some kind of army training. Ask yourselves the question, if I were in Taj Hotel and I knew how this was, would Unnikrishnan be the only person who died there in uniform? Certainly not. Those of us who are dining there would have had some modicum of discipline, saying that, okay, Kasab and his friends are firing, I am going, and as soon as I am going to smother him, I am going. But after me, you jump on him. I am sure if we knew how to handle a gun, if we knew how to do something, we would have, the courage in us would have come from any one of you sitting over here. Today, we are rendered into such useless, good-for-nothing people who will run at the first shot of an explosion going around. We don't know how to fall in line. We don't know how to confront these things. Don't you think we need some kind of state-sponsored training in these matters so that as a nation we can stand up, and when ordered to stand up, we do stand up? A small society like that of Israel, running out of time? Yeah. So I'll be concluding now. So I leave you with this thought, ladies and gentlemen, that although our educational system has been watered down over the ages, let not our physical being also get watered down and our characters be lost over a period of time. Let's, even if 5 years is too much, possibly 2 years would help us shed those inhibitions, shed those prejudices, shed those differences that we like to nurture and we hear of being raised at every election. If we were able at our ages to shed those kind of things, because I grew up at a time when we never thought about these things. 6 years later, I find that this is the most important thing, that we have differences and we maintain these differences. So ladies and gentlemen, with these things, I'm very grateful to the organizers for letting me share these 2 points with you, and I hope all of you would be enjoying what my successors in this day's speeches would be regaling you with. The next person, I am sure, is somebody who I am very keen to listen to, because that area is some area in which I have absolutely no expertise in. And so with that, I thank you once again and wish you all the best.